I'm 103 years old. I fought in a war. I've buried most of the people I ever knew. And I can tell you with complete certainty, you're exhausting yourself, caring about things that will not matter to you in 10 years. I promise you this, I'm not guessing. I've spent over a century watching people, watching them fight the wrong battles. I've sat with men who survived combat, only to waste decades proving things that didn't need proving. I've watched entire generations disappear, and I've seen what they held on to, what they let go of at the end. Most of what is eating you alive right now, most of what keeps you up at night, most of what you're sacrificing your peace for, it will evaporate. It will simply stop mattering. The tragedy is, you won't realize this until you're much older, or sicker, or closer to the end than you want to be. You look back and think, why did I waste so much of myself on that? I know what falls away. And I want to tell you now, while you can still do something with this information, number one, I stopped caring about proving I was brave. This one took me decades to let go of. When you're a young soldier, they teach you that hesitation equals weakness, fear equals failure. You learn to bury doubt so deep that even you can't find it. And that lesson doesn't stay on the battlefield. It follows you home. It seeps into every corner of your life. I spent years proving I wasn't a coward, not just in war, but in arguments, in decisions, in moments that meant nothing. Someone would challenge me and I'd dig in, not because I cared about the outcome, but because backing down felt like surrender. I thought courage meant never flinching, never reconsidering, never showing uncertainty. I was wrong. I've sat with dying veterans, men who survived things most people can't imagine. And you know what they told me in their final weeks? They wished they had stopped performing. They wished they had admitted when they were scared or unsure. They spent their whole lives proving something that never needed proving. Real courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when you're terrified, without needing anyone to witness it or validate it. It's saying, I don't know, when you don't know. It's changing your mind when you learn something new. It's walking away from a fight that doesn't matter. You don't have to prove your bravery to anyone, not to your family, not to strangers, not even to yourself. The people who matter already see who you are. And the people who need constant proof will never be satisfied anyway. Save that energy. You're going to need it for things that actually require courage. Number two, I stopped being afraid of weakness. I was raised in a time when men didn't cry. Soldiers especially. You locked it down. You kept it together, admitting you were struggling, admitting you needed help, admitting anything hurt that was unacceptable. Weakness was something you hid, even from yourself. So I hid it for decades. I built walls so thick that nobody could see in. And when eventually I couldn't see out. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was doing what a man was supposed to do. What I was actually doing was isolating myself from every real connection I could have had. The armor became a prison. I watched people spend their entire lives behind those same walls. They died alone, even when they were surrounded by family, because nobody really knew them. They never let anyone close enough to see the truth. And in their final days, when the walls finally came down, they would say the same thing over and over. I wish I had let people see me sooner. Hiding your weakness doesn't make you strong. It makes you alone. Real strength is letting people see that you're human. It's admitting when you're afraid or lost or barely holding on. It's asking for help when you need it. It's crying when something breaks your heart. That takes more courage than any performance of toughness ever will. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. You're not required to have it all figured out. The people who love you don't need you to be invincible. They just need you to be real. Let them in while there's still time. Number 3, I stopped caring about what my body looks like. I'm not talking about health. Health matters. I'm talking about appearance. I'm talking about the way we torture ourselves over whether we look acceptable to other people. I spent decades worrying about my weight, my scars, the way my body was changing as I aged. I wouldn't wear certain things because I thought I looked wrong. I wouldn't swim because I didn't want people to see me. I would look in the mirror and catalog everything that wasn't right. Do you know how much time that takes? Do you know how much mental energy that consumes? And for what? So that strangers wouldn't think critical thoughts about me, so that I could meet some standard that kept moving anyway. At 103, I can tell you this with absolute certainty. Your body is a vehicle. That's all it is. It's the thing that carries you around while you're alive. It's not a performance. It's not a project. It's not something that needs to be perfected before you're allowed to enjoy your life. Every single person who ever looked at you critically, every single person who ever made you feel like you weren't good enough, they're dealing with their own pain. Their criticism of your body is not actually about your body. It's about their fear and their insecurity and their inability to accept their own flesh. Don't let their suffering become yours. Wear what you want. Eat the food. Go swimming. Stop hiding yourself until you look the way you think you're supposed to look. You will never get there. The standard is a lie. And you will wake up one day in a body that barely works anymore and think, I wish I had enjoyed it more when it still could do things. Number 4, I stopped trying to control everything. At 103, I can tell you something you probably don't want to hear. You control far less than you think you do. Maybe nothing at all, if I'm being honest. I spent most of my life trying to manage outcomes, trying to prevent disasters, trying to keep everything in order. I made plans. I prepared for every possibility. I stayed vigilant. I thought if I just worked hard enough, thought far enough ahead, stayed alert enough, I could keep bad things from happening. It was exhausting. And it didn't work. Life happens anyway. Plans fall apart. People make choices you can't predict. Circumstances change in ways you never saw coming. The harder you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. I've watched people spend their final years drowning in regret over things they could never have controlled in the first place. They blame themselves for marriages that ended, for children who made their own mistakes, for careers that didn't go the way they planned. They carried guilt for outcomes that were never theirs to determine. The people who survived, the ones who found any kind of peace, they weren't the ones with perfect plans. They were the ones who could adapt when everything fell apart. They were the ones who could let go of the wheel when the road disappeared. You can't control what happens. You can barely control how you respond to what happens. What you can do is stop wasting energy on the illusion that you're in charge of any of this. Make your plans, do your best, and then let it unfold. Trust that you'll handle whatever comes, because you will. You always have. Number 5, I stopped caring about old grudges. I held on to resentments for decades. There were people I hadn't forgiven for things that happened in the 1950s, in the 1960s, during the war. I would think about them and feel the anger rise up in me like it was still fresh. I kept a mental list of wrongs done to me. I rehearsed conversations I would never have. I fantasized about confrontations. And the whole time, the people I was angry at had no idea they were living their lives. They had probably forgotten whatever they did that hurt me. The only person being harmed by my grudge was me. I had a friend, Henry. We served together. After the war, something happened between us, an argument about nothing that mattered. We stopped speaking. 50 years we lived in the same town and didn't say a word to each other. 50 years I held on to being right about whatever it was we argued about. Henry died in 2001. I went to his funeral. I stood there looking at his coffin, thinking about all the years we wasted, all the conversations we never had, all the time we could have spent as friends instead of strangers carrying some ancient wound neither of us could probably even explain anymore. I forgave him that day, but he was already gone. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to the person who hurt you. It's a gift you give to yourself. It's putting down a weight that was never doing anything except making you tired. I forgave everyone after that. Not because they deserved it. Not because what they did was okay. I forgave them because I didn't want to carry it anymore. Don't wait until someone's funeral to let it go. Number 7, I stopped caring about being productive. This is the hardest one. This is the one that almost broke me. I was raised to believe that your worth was connected to your usefulness, that you had to earn your place in the world by working, by contributing, by doing something that mattered. As a soldier, your value was measured by what you could do, how much you could carry, how fast you could move, how well you performed. If you couldn't keep up, you were a liability. That belief followed me for 8 decades. When I finally had to stop working, when my body started giving out, when I couldn't do the things I used to do, I felt like I was disappearing, like I didn't matter anymore. I had no rank, no role, no purpose. I didn't know how to just exist without producing something, without being useful to someone. I volunteered for years because I didn't know how to sit still. I pushed my failing body because rest felt like giving up. I measured every day by what I accomplished. And when I accomplished nothing, I felt worthless. Learning that I was still worthy of love and space and air even when I wasn't producing anything, that was one of the most difficult lessons of my life. You are not a machine. Your value is not measured by your output. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to have days where you do nothing except exist. And that is enough. The cult of productivity is lying to you. It's telling you that every moment must count. Every hour must move you towards some goal. But that's not how a good life is actually lived. A good life has space in it. A good life has rest. You don't have to earn your existence. You already belong here. I'm 103 years old. I've survived a world war. I've outlived almost everyone I ever knew. I've watched entire generations come and go. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, most people care too much about the wrong things for too long. They exhaust themselves proving courage that doesn't need proving. They hide weakness that makes them human. They torture themselves over bodies that are just vehicles. They try to control outcomes they were never meant to control. They carry grudges that poison only themselves. They drown trying to save people who need to learn to swim. They measure their worth by their productivity until they have nothing left to give. War taught me what's worth dying for. And I can tell you, most of what you're fighting right now isn't on that list. You don't have to wait until you're 103. You don't have to wait until you're sick or dying to let these things go. Put them down now. Stop wasting your one precious life on battles that don't deserve your heart. The end is coming for all of us. Make sure you spent your energy on what will still matter when you get there.